Don't touch me! Abigail's scream tore through the Wyoming air as Caleb reached for her fallen carpet bag. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face, backed against the stagecoach like a cornered animal. I know what you want, what all men want. I came here to be your mail-order bride, but I can't. I won't. Her voice cracked. My husband destroyed me. Every kind word he spoke was a lie. Every touch was a transaction. And now I'm standing in front of another stranger who paid for me, and I can't breathe because I know this will end the same way. It always does. She pressed her hand to her chest. I'm too broken for this. For you. For any of it. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the very end. Leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Caleb didn't move. He'd seen wounded animals before, horses with broken legs, cattle caught in barbed wire, and they all had that same look in their eyes. Fear mixed with pain, the kind that made them dangerous because they didn't know if you were trying to help or hurt them worse. Mrs. Turner, he said quietly. Don't. She held up one hand, still facing away from him. Don't call me that. I'm not. I can't be anyone's Mrs. anything. What do you want me to call you? She turned slowly, and he saw tears tracking through the dust on her face. She'd been pretty in the photograph she'd sent. Dark hair, delicate features. But the woman standing in his yard looked like she'd been hollowed out from the inside. Abigail. Just Abigail. All right, Abigail. He took one careful step forward. You traveled all the way from Boston. You're here now. That's something. That's nothing. Her laugh was bitter. I ran. That's what I did. I ran from everything, and I still brought it all with me. She pressed her hand to her chest. It's all still here. Every word he said, every promise he broke, every time he made me feel like I was worth less than dirt. Caleb felt something twist in his gut. Your husband. Former husband. She spat the word like poison. He left me with nothing, not even my self-respect. She looked at Caleb with eyes that were drowning in shame. You paid for me to come here. You sent money for my passage, for new clothes, for everything. And I'm standing here telling you I can't go through with it. What kind of person does that make me? The honest kind. She blinked. What? You're being honest. Caleb picked up her carpet bag, his movements slow and deliberate. That's more than most people manage. He gestured toward the house. Come inside. Have some water. Rest. Then we'll talk about what happens next. You're not angry. Why would I be angry? Because you... She stumbled over the words. You paid good money expecting a wife, and I'm telling you I can't be that. Caleb studied her for a long moment. I paid for a chance. That's all. A chance at something different than being alone out here. He started walking toward the house. But I'm not in the business of forcing people into things they don't want. Come on. She didn't move. What if I take your hospitality and still leave tomorrow? He stopped, looked back. Then you leave tomorrow. But tonight you're a guest in my home. That's all that matters right now. Abigail stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. Her first husband, Marcus, would have already been shouting by now. Would have grabbed her arm, shaken. Her demanded she stop being hysterical and do her duty. This cowboy, with his quiet voice and careful movements, was so different it made her chest ache. I don't understand you, she whispered. Don't have to understand me, just have to come inside before you collapse from exhaustion. He nodded toward the house again. Please, Abigail. The way he said her name like it mattered, like she mattered, made something crack inside her. She followed him. The house was simple but clean. Wooden floors, sturdy furniture, windows that let in the late afternoon light. It smelled like coffee and leather, and something else she couldn't quite name. Safety, maybe. Or the absence of fear. Caleb set her bag by the door and disappeared into what she assumed was the kitchen. She heard water running, the clink of a cup. When he returned, he handed her a glass and gestured to the sofa. Sit down before you fall down. She sat, drank the water in 3 long gulps. She hadn't realized how thirsty she was until the cool liquid hit her throat. When she finished, he took the empty glass from her shaking hands. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday." "Maybe." She couldn't remember. The last 2 days had been a blur of stagecoaches and anxiety, and the constant voice in her head telling her she was making a terrible mistake. Caleb disappeared again. She heard him moving around the kitchen, the sound of a pan on the stove. Minutes later, he came back with bread cheese and cold chicken. He set the plate on the low table in front of her. "Eat." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to. There's a difference." He settled into the chair across from her. "And while you eat, I'll talk. You can listen or not, your choice." Abigail picked up the bread with trembling fingers. The first bite tasted like heaven. "I grew up on this ranch," Caleb said. "My parents built it from nothing. Worked themselves half to death making it what it is. They died 5 years ago. Influenza took them both in the same week." His voice stayed level, but she heard the grief underneath. "Since then, it's been just me. I tried to make it work with a woman from town once, Sarah. We were together almost a year before she told me she couldn't stand the isolation. Said being out here made her feel like she was disappearing." Abigail swallowed. "Did you love her?" "Thought I did." He leaned back in his chair. "But looking back, I think I loved the idea of not being alone more than I loved her. She left, and I was angry for a while. Bitter. Told myself I was better off without anyone." He met her eyes. "But that's a lie people tell themselves when they're scared. I was just scared." "Of what?" "Of letting someone in and having them leave anyway." He said it simply, like he was stating a fact about the weather. "So I worked, kept my head down, focused on the ranch. Told myself that was enough." He paused. "It wasn't." "So you sent for a mail-order bride?" She heard the judgment in her own voice and winced, but Caleb just nodded. "I did. Because I figured if I was honest about what I needed a partner, someone to share this life with, maybe I'd find someone who wanted the same thing. No romance. No pretty lies. Just honesty. And instead you got me." Abigail set down the bread, her appetite suddenly gone. "A woman who can't even keep her promises before she's made them. You haven't broken any promises to me." Caleb's voice was gentle. "You told me the truth. That takes more courage than lying." "Courage." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm the least courageous person you'll ever meet. I married Marcus because I was too scared to say no. I stayed with him when he started drinking because I was too scared to leave. I let him tell me I was worthless, stupid, a burden." Her voice cracked. "I believed him. And when he finally left me for someone else, I was actually relieved." "How pathetic is that?" Caleb leaned forward. "Not pathetic, human. He destroyed me." The words came out in a rush, like poison she'd been holding inside too long. "He took everything good I thought I was and ground it into dust. And the worst part, I let him. I stood there and let him do it because I thought that's what love was supposed to look like. Sacrifice, suffering, silence. That's not love." Caleb's voice was quiet but firm. "That's abuse." Abigail flinched. She'd never heard anyone say it out loud before. "He never hit me. Doesn't have to use his fists to break someone." Caleb stood slowly, like he didn't want to startle her. "Words can do just as much damage, maybe more because the bruises don't show." She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "Why are you being kind to me? You don't even know me." "Don't have to know someone to treat them with basic human decency." He moved to the window, looked out at the fading light. "My father used to say that the measure of a man isn't what he does when people are watching. It's what he does when no one would know the difference." He turned back to her. "You came all this way. You're hurting. I can help with that, at least a little. Why wouldn't I? Because most people wouldn't." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Most people would tell me to stop feeling sorry for myself, to grow up, to be grateful for what I have." "Then most people are fools." Caleb crossed his arms. "You're grieving, not just for your marriage, for who you were before he got his hands on you. That's worth mourning." Something inside Abigail broke open. She'd been holding it together for so long through the divorce, through the shame, through the desperate decision to become a mail-order bride, and this stranger's kindness was the thing that finally shattered her carefully constructed walls. She sobbed. Great ugly gasping sobs that shook her whole body. And Caleb didn't tell her to stop, didn't tell her to calm down. He just stood there steady as a mountain and let her fall apart. When the storm finally passed, she was exhausted, wrung out, empty. "I'm sorry," she managed. "Don't be." Caleb handed her a clean handkerchief from his pocket. "You needed that." She wiped her face, tried to pull herself together. "What happens now?" "Now you sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest." He gestured toward the hallway. "There's a spare room. Clean sheets quiet. Take it for as long as you need. And if I decide to leave, then I'll take you back to town myself. Make sure you get on the stagecoach safely." He said it like he meant it. "But Abigail, I hope you don't leave. Not yet. Give yourself a few days to rest, to think without the pressure of a decision hanging over you. Can you do that?" She wanted to say no, wanted to run before she got hurt again. But something in his eyes, something steady and true, made her pause. "A few days," she heard herself say. "That's all. That's all I'm asking."
잠내신.
The first night, Abigail barely slept. She lay in the small clean room and stared at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the ranch. Cattle lowing in the distance, wind moving through the grass. The creak of Caleb's footsteps as he moved through the house before settling into his own room. It was so different from Boston. From the cramped boarding house where she'd spent the last 6 months after Marcus left. From the constant noise of the city, the press of people, the suffocating feeling of having nowhere to go and no one who cared. Here, there was space, room to breathe, and a man who'd shown her more kindness in 3 hours than her husband had in 3 years. That thought terrified her. The next morning, she woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. She dressed quickly, aware that she only had 2 other dresses in her carpet bag, everything she owned in the world, and made her way to the kitchen. Caleb was at the stove, his back to her. He looked different in the morning light. Younger, maybe. Or just less guarded. "Morning," he said without turning around. "Coffee's on the table." She poured herself a cup, grateful for something to do with her hands. "You didn't have to cook for me. I was cooking anyway, just made extra." He slid eggs and bacon onto 2 plates, brought them to the table. "Sit." They ate in silence for a while. It should have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. Caleb didn't seem to need to fill the quiet with meaningless words, and Abigail was grateful for it. "I need to check the cattle this morning," he said finally. "Should take a few hours. You're welcome to come along if you want, or stay here, whatever feels right." "I'll stay." She wasn't ready to face the ranch yet, wasn't ready to pretend she belonged here. "All right." He finished his coffee, stood. "There's food in the larder if you get hungry, books in the front room if you want something to read, and if you need anything." He stopped. "Well, you'll be fine." After he left, Abigail wandered through the house. It was strange being alone in a man's home. Marcus would have never trusted her like this, would have locked up anything valuable hidden. His money acted like she was going to rob him blind the moment his back was turned. But Caleb had just left, like it didn't occur to him that she might betray his trust. She found the books he'd mentioned. Most were practical ranching guides, agricultural manuals, but there were a few novels tucked in among them. She pulled out a worn copy of Jane Eyre and settled onto the sofa. She was 3 chapters in when she heard hoofbeats outside. Her heart jumped into her throat. Caleb wasn't due back for hours. "Who?" The door burst open. A woman in riding clothes stormed in, saw Abigail, and stopped dead. "Who the hell are you?" Abigail stood quickly. I'm Abigail. Abigail Turner." The woman's eyes narrowed. "The mail-order bride." She said it like an accusation. "Yes, I mean..." Abigail's hands twisted together. "I don't know. Maybe. It's complicated." "I'll bet it is." The woman moved closer, and Abigail could see she was beautiful in a sharp, fierce way. Dark eyes, strong jaw. The kind of woman who looked like she could rope a steer and break a man's heart in the same afternoon. "I'm Sarah. Caleb probably told you about me." "He mentioned you, yes. Did he tell you I came back?" Sarah's smile was dangerous. "That I realized I made a mistake leaving him, that I've been trying to convince him to give me another chance for the past 3 months." Abigail's stomach dropped. "No, he didn't mention that. Of course he didn't." Sarah circled her like a predator. "Caleb's too noble for his own good. Probably didn't want to complicate things for you." She stopped directly in front of Abigail. "But I'm not noble, and I'm telling you straight. I'm not going to let some desperate city woman steal him from me." "I'm not trying to steal anyone." Abigail's voice came out weaker than she wanted. I'm here. That's all. You're here wearing his hospitality like a dress, sleeping in his house, eating his food." Sarah leaned in close. "Making him think you might actually want him when we both know you're just using him as a way out of whatever mess you left behind in Boston. That's not, isn't it?" Sarah's eyes were cold. "You think I don't know desperation when I see it? You reek of it. Whatever happened to you back east, it broke something inside you. And now you're here looking for a man to fix it. But Caleb deserves better than someone's second choice. He deserves someone who actually wants him, not just the safety he can provide." Every word hit like a physical blow, because they were all true. Abigail was desperate. She was broken. She was looking for safety more than love. "You're right," she whispered. "About all of it." Sarah blinked clearly, not expecting agreement. "What?" "You're right. I am desperate. I am broken." Abigail met her eyes. "And you're right that Caleb deserves better, which is why I'm leaving." "You're what?" "Leaving, today, as soon as he gets back." Abigail moved past Sarah toward the spare room. "I'll pack my things. You can have him. You can have all of this. Because you're right, I don't deserve any of it." She was shoving clothes into her carpet bag when she heard Sarah's voice from the doorway. "I didn't mean—" The other woman stopped. "Look, I shouldn't have come here, shouldn't have said those things." "Why not? They were true." Abigail didn't look up. "I'm using him. Maybe not consciously, but that's what it amounts to. And he's been nothing but kind to me, which makes it worse." "He told you about me?" It wasn't a question. "He said you couldn't stand the isolation, that you left because being here made you feel like you were disappearing." Sarah laughed, but it sounded hollow. "That's the polite version. The truth is, I got scared. Scared of how much I was starting to need him. Scared of what it meant to build a life out here so far from everything I knew." She moved into the room. "So I ran, and then I spent 6 months regretting it, trying to find a way back to him. And—" Abigail finally looked at her. "And he won't take me back. Says I made my choice, and he respects it. Says he's not interested in being someone's backup plan." Sarah's voice cracked. "I heard him, and he's too proud to admit it. So when I heard he'd sent for a mail-order bride, I thought—" She shook her head. "I thought maybe if I could scare you off, he'd see sense. See me. But he doesn't want you." Abigail said it gently. "Does he?" "No." Sarah sank onto the edge of the bed. "He doesn't. And I have to live with that." She looked at Abigail with eyes that suddenly seemed very tired. "But that doesn't mean you should leave. If you want to be here, if there's any part of you that thinks you could build something with him, stay. Don't let my mistakes chase you away." "I don't know what I want." Abigail sat down next to her. "All I know is I'm terrified of making another mistake, of trusting the wrong person again, of ending up broken all over again." "Then don't trust him yet." Sarah's voice was surprisingly kind. "But give yourself time to find out if you could. That's all anyone can ask." They sat together in silence, two women wounded by different versions of the same fear. When Caleb returned that afternoon, he found both of them in the kitchen. Sarah was washing dishes while Abigail dried them, and the sight stopped him in his tracks. "Sarah, His voice was carefully neutral. Didn't expect to see you here. I came to apologize. Sarah set down the plate she was holding. To both of you. I've been acting like a jealous fool and it stops now. Caleb looked between them. What happened? I said some things I shouldn't have. Sarah grabbed her hat from the counter. But Abigail and I talked it out, and I'm leaving now, for good this time. She moved toward the door, paused next to Caleb. She's good for you. Don't let her go without a fight. Then she was gone, and Caleb and Abigail were alone again. You want to tell me what that was about? Caleb asked. She was protecting you. Abigail set down the dish towel. From me. From the possibility that I might hurt you. She met his eyes. She was wrong about some things, but not about everything. Such as the fact that I'm terrified, that I don't know if I can do any of this. Marriage, trust, love. She took a shaky breath. But I want to try. If you'll let me. Not as your wife. Not yet. But as someone who wants to stay long enough to find out if she could be. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I can live with that. Just like that. Just like that. He moved to the stove, started making coffee. We'll take it one day at a time. No pressure, no expectations. Just see what happens. Abigail felt something loosen in her chest. Why are you making this so easy? Because it should be easy. Caleb glanced back at her. The good things in life shouldn't be complicated. It's only when we start lying to ourselves and each other that it gets hard. He poured 2 cups, handed her one. So, we'll be honest. We'll take our time, and we'll figure it out together. Deal. She took the coffee, felt the warmth seep into her cold hands. Deal. And for the first time since Marcus had walked out on her, Abigail felt something that might have been hope. The first week passed like a dream Abigail was afraid to wake from. She worked alongside Caleb during the days, mending fences, feeding chickens, learning the rhythms of ranch life, and each night she retreated to her room, keeping that careful distance between them. He never pushed, never asked for more than she could give, and somehow that made her want to give more. You're getting better at that, Caleb said on the 8th morning as she scattered grain for the chickens. They trust you now. They trust the food. But she smiled when she said it. Same thing sometimes. He leaned against the fence post watching her. Trust starts with knowing someone will show up, that they'll do what they say they'll do. The rest comes after. She looked at him sharply. Are we still talking about chickens? Maybe, maybe not. His eyes held hers for a moment before he turned away. I need to ride out to the north pasture today. Check on the herd. You want to come? Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to keep the walls up, to protect herself. But that hope that had taken root in her chest was growing stronger every day. Yes, she heard herself say. I want to come. They rode out together, Abigail on a gentle mare Caleb had saddled for her. The Wyoming landscape spread out around them, endless sky-rolling grassland mountains in the distance. It should have felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt like freedom. Tell me about Boston, Caleb said as they rode. What was it like? Crowded, dirty, expensive. She paused. Lonely. How can a place with that many people be lonely? Because none of them see you. The words came easier now. You're just another body taking up space. Another person in the way. Marcus and I lived in a boarding house with 12 other families. We shared walls so thin you could hear everything: fights, crying babies, people's most private moments. But no one ever knocked on our door to see if we were all right. No one cared. Did you have friends? I thought I did, before Marcus. Her hands tightened on the reins. But he didn't like me spending time with them, said they were a bad influence, that they were trying to turn me against him, so I stopped seeing them, and when he left when I needed them most, they'd moved on. I was just someone they used to know. Caleb was quiet for a moment. He isolated you. He made me think it was my choice. She blinked back tears. That's the part that makes me angriest. Not that he did it, but that I let him convince me it was what I wanted. You were trying to make your marriage work. That's not weakness. Feels like it. It's not. Caleb pulled his horse to a stop, and she did the same. They were on a rise overlooking a small valley where cattle grazed peacefully. You know what takes real strength? Starting over. Walking away from everything familiar and taking a chance on something new. That's courage, Abigail. Don't let anyone tell you different. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. What if I fail again? The question came out small, frightened. What if I'm not strong enough? Then you get back up and try again. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. That's all any of us can do. They sat in silence for a while, watching the cattle. Then Caleb spoke again, his voice careful. Can I ask you something? Yes. What made you answer my advertisement? Out of all the men looking for wives, why me? Abigail thought about lying about giving him some romantic answer. But they'd promised honesty. Your letter was different, she said finally. Most of the advertisements I read were about what the man wanted. Someone to cook, someone to clean, someone to warm his bed. You were the only one who asked what I wanted. Who said you were looking for a partner, not a servant? She looked at him. It made me think you might actually see me as a person. Not just a solution to a problem. That's all you are to me. His voice was soft. A person. Someone worthy of respect and kindness. Everything else is just details we'll figure out as we go. Her throat tightened. How are you real? I'm not special, Abigail. I'm just a man who knows what it's like to be lonely, to want something more. He nudged his horse forward. Come on, there's something I want to show you. They rode deeper into the valley, and as they crested another rise, Abigail gasped. Spread out before them was a small lake, its surface reflecting the sky like a mirror. Wildflowers grew thick along its banks. Purple lupines, yellow prairie roses, white daisies. My mother loved this place, Caleb said quietly. She used to come here when she needed to think. Said it helped her remember why they chose this life even when it got hard. He dismounted, helped Abigail down. I thought you might like it too. She walked to the water's edge, knelt down, touched the cool surface with her fingertips. It's beautiful. It's yours. She looked up at him. What? This place? Whenever you need somewhere to go, somewhere to be alone with your thoughts, it's yours. He crouched beside her. Everyone needs a place like that. Somewhere that's just theirs. Abigail felt tears prick her eyes again. Marcus had never given her anything without strings attached. Every gift came with expectations, with demands for gratitude and obedience. But Caleb was offering her this beautiful, peaceful place and asking for nothing in return. Thank you, she whispered. They stayed there for an hour, not talking much, just existing in the same space. It was the most peaceful Abigail had felt in years. On the ride back, Caleb's horse stumbled. It wasn't serious, just a rock under its hoof, but the animal lurched hard enough that Caleb had to grab the saddle horn to stay mounted. You all right? Abigail called. Fine, just... He dismounted to check the horse's hoof. We should have been more careful. Ground's getting rough here. But as he bent down, Abigail saw him wince. Saw his hand go to his side. You're hurt. It's nothing. Let me see. Abigail. Let me see, Caleb. She was off her horse before he could argue, moving toward him. Please. He lifted his shirt reluctantly. There was a dark bruise spreading across his ribs, angry purple against his skin. How long have you had this? Couple days. Bull caught me wrong when I was working the pen. It's just a bruise. Just a bruise. She pressed gently against it, and he hissed in pain. You need a doctor. Don't need a doctor for bruised ribs. They'll heal on their own. Or they're cracked, or broken, or... She stopped, fear flooding through her. What if it's serious? What if you're hurt worse than you think? I'm fine. You don't know that. Her voice rose, panic edging in. You could have internal bleeding. You could collapse out here and I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't be able to help you. I'd just have to watch you." She broke off, breathing hard. Caleb caught her hands. "Hey, look at me." He waited until she met his eyes. "I'm all right. I promise. I've had worse than this and lived to tell about it. You shouldn't have to live through worse. You shouldn't have to be hurt at all." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "You're too good to get hurt." Something shifted in his expression. "Abigail, I can't lose you." The confession burst from her like a dam breaking. "I know I have no right to say that. I know or not that I haven't, but I can't lose you. Not when I'm just starting to—" She stopped, terrified by what she'd almost said. Starting to what? His voice was gentle, but his eyes were intense. "Feel safe," she finished. "Starting to feel safe." He pulled her closer slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he wrapped his arms around her, carefully mindful of his ribs. She buried her face in his chest and tried not to cry. "I'm not going anywhere," he murmured against her hair. "Takes more than a stubborn bull to get rid of me. Promise me you'll see a doctor anyway. Tomorrow. Please." "All right, I promise." He pulled back enough to look at her. "But only if you promise to stop catastrophizing every time something goes wrong. Life on a ranch is hard. People get hurt. It doesn't mean they're dying." Marcus used to say things like that. The words slipped out before she could stop them. "Used to tell me I was overreacting, being dramatic, making problems out of nothing." Caleb's jaw tightened. "I'm not Marcus. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "No, listen to me." He took her face in his hands, made her look at him. "I am never going to use your past to manipulate you. I'm never going to tell you your feelings don't matter. When I say you're catastrophizing, I'm not dismissing you. I'm trying to help you see that not every bad thing is the end of the world. There's a difference." "How do I know?" Her voice broke. "How do I know when someone's helping me and when they're trying to control me? Because the person helping you will explain their reasoning. Will listen when you disagree. Will respect your right to feel however you feel, even if they think you're wrong." He stroked her cheek with his thumb. "The person controlling you will make you doubt yourself, will make you feel crazy for having feelings in the first place." She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. "It's so hard to tell the difference sometimes. I know, that's why we talk about it. Why we keep being honest with each other, even when it's uncomfortable." He kissed her forehead gently. "We'll figure it out together. I promise." They rode back slowly, Caleb favoring his ribs. Abigail kept glancing at him, checking to make sure he was all right. Each time she looked, he smiled at her, steady and reassuring. When they reached the house, a stranger was waiting in the yard. A man in a dusty suit with a leather satchel at his feet. "Caleb Walker," the man called out. "That's me." Caleb dismounted carefully. "Can I help you?" "Name's Thomas Brennan. I'm an attorney from Cheyenne." He pulled papers from his satchel. "I've been looking for you for 3 weeks." Abigail's stomach dropped. Something about this man's presence felt wrong. "What's this about?" Caleb asked. "Your uncle, Silas Walker. He passed away 2 months ago." Caleb went very still. "I don't have an uncle named Silas. According to these documents you did." Brennan held out the papers. "Your father's brother. They had a falling out before you were born. Silas moved to California, made a fortune in mining, never married, no children. When he died, he left everything to you." Caleb took the papers like they might bite him. "Everything. $50,000, plus property holdings in San Francisco." Brennan's smile was practiced professional. "Congratulations, Mr. Walker. You're a wealthy man." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Abigail felt the ground shift beneath her feet. $50,000. It was more money than she could imagine, more money than anyone needed. And Caleb? She looked at him and saw shock written across his face. "I don't understand," he said slowly. My father never mentioned a brother. They weren't on speaking terms. According to Silas's will, there was some disagreement about the ranch. Your father wanted to stay and work the land. Silas thought he was wasting his life. They parted badly and never reconciled. Brennan gestured to the papers. But blood is blood, and Silas wanted you to have what he built. There are conditions, of course. Conditions. Caleb's voice was flat. You have to claim the inheritance in person, in San Francisco, and you have to do it within 60 days, or it goes to the state. Brennan checked his pocket watch. That gives you 42 days as of today. And if I don't go, then you forfeit everything. Brennan shrugged. But why would you $50,000, Mr. Walker? You could sell this ranch, move to the city, live like a king for the rest of your life. Abigail watched Caleb's face and saw something she'd never seen before. Uncertainty, confusion, fear. I need to think about this, Caleb said finally. Of course. Take your time. Brennan tipped his hat. I'll be at the hotel in town for 2 more days if you have questions. After that, you'll have to contact the firm directly. He mounted his horse, paused. One more thing. The inheritance includes a house in San Francisco, a fine place from what I understand, big enough for a family. He rode away, leaving Caleb standing in the yard, holding papers that had just upended his entire world. Abigail dismounted slowly, her mind racing. $50,000, a house in San Francisco, a completely different life. And where did that leave her? Caleb, she started. I need a minute. His voice was tight. Just give me a minute. He walked into the house without looking at her. Abigail stood in the yard, feeling ice spread through her chest. This was it. This was the moment everything fell apart. Because why would Caleb stay here, stay with her, a broken mail-order bride who couldn't even commit to marrying him when he could have wealth and status and a new life in the city? She was losing him, just like she'd lost everything else. And the worst part, she had no right to ask him to stay. Inside, Caleb sat at the kitchen table staring at the papers. $50,000. It was more than his parents had made in their entire lives combined. More than he'd ever dreamed of having. He could pay off the ranch, buy better equipment, hire help, make the place everything his parents had wanted it to be. Or he could sell it. Walk away from the back-breaking work, the isolation, the constant struggle to stay afloat. Move to San Francisco. Live comfortably. Maybe find a different life entirely. The door opened. Abigail stepped inside, and he could see the fear in her eyes. You're going to go? She said. Aren't you? I don't know. You should go. Her voice shook. It's an incredible opportunity. You'd be crazy not to take it. Would I? He looked at her. What if I don't want a different life? What if I like the one I have? Do you? The question came out sharp. Or are you just saying that because you feel obligated to me? Obligated. He stood up. Where is this coming from? From reality, Caleb? You barely know me. We've been, whatever this is, for barely a week. And now you have a chance at something better, something real. Why would you stay here for someone who can't even... Her voice cracked. For someone who's still too broken to give you what you deserve. What I deserve. He moved toward her. What I deserve is to make my own choices without you deciding for me what I want. I'm trying to make this easier for you, by pushing me away, by assuming I'd rather have money than... He stopped, ran his hand through his hair. Than what I'm building here with you. The words hit her like a physical blow. Don't say things like that. Why not? It's true. Because it makes this hurt worse. Tears streamed down her face. Don't you understand? I can't lose you. I can't survive losing someone else. She stopped, horrified by what she'd almost said. Someone you... What, Abigail? Someone I care about. She finished weakly. Caleb closed the distance between them. Look at me. When she didn't, he gently lifted her chin. I'm not leaving. Not for $50,000. Not for a house in San Francisco. Not for anything. You say that now. I mean it now, and I'll mean it tomorrow. And the day after that. His eyes held hers. I know you're scared. I know Marcus taught you that people leave when something better comes along. But I'm not him. And what we have here, what we're building, that's worth more to me than any inheritance. How can you say that? You don't even know if I can, if we'll... She couldn't finish the sentence. I don't need guarantees. I just need you to stop trying to protect me from choices I'm capable of making myself. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. If I go to San Francisco, it'll be to claim the inheritance and come right back. And you know what I'll do with that money? I'll invest it in this ranch. In our future. If you'll let me. Our future. She tested the words, afraid to believe them. Our future, he repeated firmly. But only if you stop waiting for me to abandon you. Only if you trust that I mean what I say. I'm trying. Her voice was barely a whisper. But it's so hard. I know, but we'll get there. He pulled her close, and she let herself lean into him. Together. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the fading light. And for the first time, Abigail let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she'd found someone who wouldn't let go. But believing and trusting were two different things. And the next morning, Abigail woke with that familiar knot of fear in her stomach. She found Caleb in the barn checking the water troughs. The levels were lower than they should have been. Creek's running slow, he said without looking up. Haven't had good rain in 6 weeks. Is that bad? Could be. If it doesn't rain soon, we'll have to start rationing water for the cattle. He straightened, wiped his hands on his jeans. But we'll manage. Always do. Caleb, about yesterday. I meant what I said. His voice was firm. Every word. I know, but I've been thinking. She twisted her hands together. You should go to San Francisco. Soon. Claim the inheritance before you run out of time. I will, but not alone. Her heart stuttered. What? Come with me. He said it simply, like he was asking her to ride to town, not travel halfway across the country. We'll go together, handle the legal business, and come back. 2 weeks, maybe 3. I can't. Why not? Because... She scrambled for reasons. The ranch. Who'll take care of things here? I've got a neighbor who owes me a favor. Bill Henderson. He can watch the place while we're gone. Caleb moved closer. That's not the real reason you don't want to go. It's not appropriate. People will talk. An unmarried woman traveling with, then marry me. The words hung in the air between them, sharp and sudden. Abigail stared at him. What? Marry me. Before we go. Make it legal and proper so no one has cause to gossip. He said it calmly, but his eyes were intense. Unless that's not what you want. You can't be serious. Why can't I? Because you're proposing to me to avoid gossip. Her voice rose. That's not a reason to get married. You're right, so how about this reason I want to? He took her hands. I want to marry you, Abigail. Not because it's convenient or proper, because I care about you. Because every day I wake up, and you're the first thing I think about. Because when I imagine my future, you're in it. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar. I know you hum when you're doing dishes. I know you're terrified of thunderstorms, but you pretend you're not. His grip tightened. I know you're brave and broken and beautiful, and I want to spend the rest of my life getting to know everything else. Stop. Tears were streaming down her face. Please stop. Why? Because you're making me want things I can't have. Can't or won't. He pulled her closer. There's a difference. I'm damaged, Caleb. Marcus made sure of that. I don't know if I can be a real wife to you. I don't know if I can... She broke off, shame flooding through her. If you can, what? Be intimate. The words came out barely above a whisper. Let someone touch me that way without feeling like I'm being used. Caleb's expression softened. Did he? No. Not like you're thinking. He never forced me. But he made me feel like that's all I was good for. Like my only value was what I could give him in bed. And then when he left, he told me I was bad at even that. She covered her face with her hands. So yes, I'm broken. And I don't know if I can give you what a husband deserves. Look at me. He waited until she lowered her hands. I'm not asking you to be anything other than who you are. If being intimate is something that terrifies you, we'll take it slow. Or we won't do it at all. I don't care. Every man cares. I'm not every man, and you're not every woman. He brushed her tears away. We'll figure it out together, at our own pace. No pressure, no expectations, just honesty and patience and time. You say that now, I'll say it a year from now, 10 years from now. His voice was steady. Abigail, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to be my wife. There's a difference. She wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. What if I can't get past this? What if I'm always this broken? Then we'll be broken together. He kissed her forehead gently. But I don't think you will be. I think you're stronger than you know. And I think with time and safety and someone who actually loves you, you'll heal. The word love made her chest ache. You can't love me? Not yet. Not really. Can't I? He smiled slightly. Pretty sure I get to decide that. Caleb, I love you, Abigail Turner. I've loved you since you stood in my yard and told me you were too broken for this. Since you cried in my living room. Since you looked at my mother's lake like it was the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen. He cupped her face. And if you need more time before you can say it back, that's fine. I'll wait. But don't tell me what I feel. Something inside her cracked wide open. I'm scared. I know. I'm terrified I'll ruin this. Ruin us. You won't. How do you know? Because we won't let it happen. He pressed his forehead to hers. So what do you say? Will you marry me? Every rational part of her brain screamed no. It was too fast. Too risky. Too much like what she'd done with Marcus, marrying a man she barely knew and hoping for the best. But Caleb wasn't Marcus. And this feeling in her chest, this terrifying, wonderful, overwhelming feeling, wasn't what she'd felt before. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. His smile was like sunrise. Yeah. Yeah. She laughed through her tears. God help us both, but yes. He kissed her, then soft and careful, and she let herself kiss him back. It was nothing like the demanding, possessive kisses Marcus had forced on her. This was gentle, sweet, a question instead of a demand. When they pulled apart, she was shaking. Too much, he asked quietly. No, just different. Good different. She took a shaky breath. I need time to get used to good. We've got time. He took her hand. Come on. We need to ride to town. Now. Now. Before you change your mind. He grinned at her. We're getting married today. Today? Her voice came out strangled. Caleb, we can't just... Why not? You said yes. I said yes. Judge Morrison can marry us this afternoon. He was already moving toward the barn to saddle the horses. Unless you want a big ceremony with flowers and a white dress and... No. The thought of a spectacle made her nauseated. No, Today seems so fast. We can wait if you want, but every day we wait is a day closer to that 60-day deadline. He looked back at her. And I don't want to waste a single one. She thought about arguing, about all the reasons this was crazy. But then she thought about waking up every morning wondering if today would be the day he changed his mind. If today would be the day he realized she wasn't worth the trouble. At least as his wife, she'd have some security. Some claim to him that couldn't be taken away so easily. It was a cynical thought and she hated herself for it. But fear made people practical. All right, she said. Today. They rode to town in under an hour. Judge Morrison was skeptical at first, wanted to make sure Abigail wasn't being coerced, but when he saw the way she looked at Caleb, saw the gentle way Caleb treated her, He agreed. They were married in his office with his wife and clerk as witnesses. No flowers, no music. Just simple vows and 2 gold bands Caleb bought from the general store. When the judge pronounced them man and wife, Abigail felt both relieved and terrified. "You all right, Mrs. Walker?" Caleb asked as they left the courthouse. Mrs. Walker. She was someone's wife again. The thought made her want to run. "I'm fine," she lied. He stopped walking. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Lie to me because you think it's what I want to hear." He turned her to face him. "You're scared. I can see it. Talk to me." "I just became someone's wife again." Her voice shook. "The last time I did that, it destroyed me. And I know you're not Marcus, I know that, but my brain doesn't care. My brain is screaming that I just made the same mistake twice." "Then let's prove your brain wrong." He said it simply. "Every day, every choice, every moment we have together, we'll prove it wrong. What if we can't? Then we'll fail trying. But at least we'll fail together." He squeezed her hand. "Come on, we need to see Bill Henderson about watching the ranch. Then we've got a train to catch." The next 3 days were a blur. Caleb arranged everything. Bill Henderson agreed to watch the ranch. They packed what they needed for the trip. Caleb went to town and bought Abigail 2 new dresses, because she couldn't travel to San Francisco with only the 3 worn ones she owned. "You don't have to do that," she protested when he brought them home. "I want to. Besides, you're my wife now. Let me take care of you." Those words should have comforted her. Instead, they triggered something dark and familiar. Marcus used to say the same thing. "Let me take care of you." Then he'd use it as leverage. Use it to make her feel obligated. Use it to control her. "I don't need taking care of," she said sharply. Caleb looked up from the trunk he was packing. "I didn't say you needed it. I said I want to do it. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes." He set down the shirt he was folding. "Abigail, what's going on?" "Nothing. I'm fine." "You're pulling away from me again. Every time I try to do something nice, you flinch." He moved toward her. "Talk to me. I don't know how to accept kindness without waiting for the other shoe to drop." The words exploded out of her. "Every time you're good to me, I keep waiting for you to remind me of it, to use it against me, to make me feel like I owe you." "Do I do that ever?" "No, but Marcus did." Understanding crossed his face. "So you're waiting for me to turn into him." "I'm trying not to." Tears burned her eyes. "I'm trying so hard to trust you, to believe you're different. But every time you're kind, every time you're generous, I hear his voice in my head saying, after everything I've done for you, like kindness was a weapon instead of a gift." Caleb was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "If I'm doing something that makes you uncomfortable, I need you to tell me. Not later. Not when you've worked yourself into a panic. Right then in the moment. That feels rude." "It's not rude. It's honest." He took her hands. "If buying you dresses makes you feel obligated, I won't do it. If taking care of things makes you feel controlled, I'll step back. But you have to tell me, Abigail. I can't read your mind." "I don't want you to step back. I just want my brain to stop sabotaging me. Then we'll work on that together." He pulled her close. "But you've got to talk to me. Even when it's hard. Even when you think you're being difficult. Especially then." She buried her face in his chest. "I'm going to drive you crazy." "Probably." She felt him smile against her hair. "But I can live with crazy. What I can't live with is you suffering in silence because you're afraid to speak up. I'll try. That's all I ask." The train ride to San Francisco took 3 days. Abigail had never been on a train before, and the noise and speed terrified her at first. But Caleb stayed close, patient, pointing out landmarks through the window and telling her stories about his childhood to distract her. On the second night, as they lay in their separate sleeping berths, Caleb had insisted on getting 2, giving her space. Abigail couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about San Francisco, about meeting lawyers and claiming an inheritance that would change everything, about whether Caleb would want to stay in the city, once he saw what that life could offer. Can't sleep either. Caleb's voice came from the berth above hers. No. Want to talk about it? Not really. All right. A pause. Can I tell you what I'm thinking about? What? I'm thinking about how different my life is from 3 weeks ago. How I was planning to spend the rest of my days alone on that ranch, convincing myself I was fine with it. And now, I'm on a train to California with my wife about to claim an inheritance I never knew existed. She heard him shift. It's surreal. Do you regret it? The question came out small. Not for a second. His voice was firm. Do you? I don't know yet. She was being honest. Ask me again when we get back home. Fair enough. They were quiet for a while. Then Abigail said, Caleb. Yeah. Thank you. For being patient with me. For not giving up even when I'm difficult. You're not difficult. You're healing. There's a difference. Another pause. Good night, Abigail. Good night. San Francisco was overwhelming. The noise, the crowds, the sheer size of it made Abigail want to hide. But Caleb kept her close, his hand steady on her back as they navigated the bustling streets to the lawyer's office. Thomas Brennan was waiting for them with more papers to sign. The process took hours reading through Silas Walker's will, verifying Caleb's identity, transferring ownership of accounts and property. The house is on Nob Hill, Brennan said, handing Caleb a set of keys. Beautiful place. 6 bedrooms, modern plumbing, view of the bay. Your uncle had excellent taste. I want to sell it, Caleb said immediately. Brennan blinked. Sell it? But you haven't even seen it. Don't need to. I'm not staying in San Francisco. Mr. Walker, that house is worth at least $10,000. Combined with your cash inheritance, you could live very comfortably here. Society circles business opportunities. I have a ranch in Wyoming. That's where I'm going back to. Abigail's chest tightened with relief. At least see the house before you decide, Brennan urged. Your uncle left detailed instructions that you spend at least one night there. Read his personal letter. He wanted you to understand why he built this life. Caleb looked at Abigail. What do you think? It's your inheritance. Your choice. Our choice, he corrected. We're married now. What affects me affects you. The words warmed something inside her. Then I think we should honor his wishes. One night won't hurt. The house was magnificent. 3 stories of elegant architecture, furnished with pieces that probably cost more than Abigail had earned in her entire life. It was beautiful and cold and utterly foreign. This is where he wanted you to live, she said quietly as they stood in the grand foyer. This is where he thought I should want to live. Caleb was already moving toward what looked like a study. There's a difference. They found Silas's letter in his desk. Caleb read it aloud. Nephew, if you're reading this, I'm dead and you're probably confused. Your father and I parted on bad terms, and I regret that more than I can say. He thought I was abandoning the family by leaving the ranch. I thought he was wasting his potential by staying. We were both too stubborn to admit we might both be right. Caleb's voice caught slightly. I built this life to prove him wrong, to show him that leaving was the smart choice. But now at the end I realize I was the one who was wrong. I have money and property and success, but I have no one to share it with. No one who cares if I live or die. Your father had less money but more wealth. A wife who loved him, a son to carry on his legacy, a life built on more than just ambition. Caleb paused. I'm leaving you this inheritance, not because I want you to live my life, but because I want you to have choices. Choices I never gave myself. Use it wisely. And if you're smart, you'll choose what your father chose, love over money. Every time. Caleb set down the letter, his jaw tight. He understood, Abigail said softly. In the end, he understood. Too late to tell my father that. Too late to make it right. Caleb's voice was rough with emotion. He died alone in this beautiful house, regretting everything. But he gave you something precious. She moved to him. He gave you permission to choose differently, to not make his mistakes. I already chose. Caleb pulled her close. The moment I met you, I chose. Money doesn't mean anything if you're alone. They spent that night in separate bedrooms, Caleb still giving her space, and in the morning, Caleb met with a real estate agent to list the house. You're sure about this? The agent asked. The market is excellent right now. I'm sure. Sell it for the best price you can get. Send the proceeds to my bank in Cheyenne. Caleb stood. We're going home. But as they walked back to their hotel, Abigail saw a woman on the street corner. She was thin, worn, holding a sign that said, "Help Needed." And her eyes, Abigail knew those eyes. Had seen them in her own mirror not so long ago. Wait. She stopped walking. What's wrong? That woman. Abigail moved closer, and the woman flinched. I'm not going to hurt you. I know that look. The woman's chin lifted defensively. I don't need charity. I wasn't offering charity. I was offering understanding. Abigail crouched down so they were eye level. My name's Abigail. What's yours? Ruth. Ruth, how long have you been on the streets? 3 months. Since my husband threw me out. Ruth's voice was bitter. Said I was useless. That he'd found someone better. Abigail's heart clenched. I know what that feels like. Do you? Ruth looked at her fine new dress, her clean face. You look like you're doing just fine to me. 3 weeks ago, I was standing in a stranger's yard telling him I was too broken to be his mail-order bride. Abigail gestured to Caleb. That's my husband. He married me anyway. Gave me a chance when I thought I'd never have one again. Ruth's eyes filled with tears. Good for you. Ruth, do you have any family? Anyone who could help you? No one. I'm alone. Abigail looked at Caleb, saw understanding in his eyes before she even asked. Come with us, Abigail said. What? Come back to Wyoming with us. Work on our ranch. We'll give you food, shelter, a wage. A fresh start. Abigail took Ruth's hands. If you want it. Ruth stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. Why would you do that? Because someone did it for me. Abigail's voice broke. Because I know what it's like to be alone and scared and convinced you'll never be worth anything again. And I know what it's like when someone shows you that's a lie. Ruth started to cry. I don't know anything about ranching. Neither did I. You'll learn. Abigail helped her to her feet. What do you say? Yes. Ruth's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, please. On the train back to Wyoming, Ruth sat across from them, still looking like she couldn't believe this was real. Caleb had bought her new clothes, a decent meal, a train ticket. And every time he did something kind, Abigail watched Ruth's face go through the same cycle of gratitude and suspicion she knew so well. She reminds you of yourself, Caleb said quietly when Ruth had fallen asleep. Yes. Abigail leaned against his shoulder. Is that wrong to want to help her because I see myself in her? Not wrong, human. He kissed the top of her head. You're healing, Abigail, and part of healing is helping others heal too. I love you. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Caleb went very still. What? I love you. She said it louder this time, more certain. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you gave me that handkerchief the first day. Maybe when you showed me the lake. Maybe when you married me even though I'm broken. But I love you, Caleb Walker. And I'm terrified of it. But I'm done lying about it. His smile was brilliant. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, you stubborn cowboy. He laughed and kissed her deep and sweet, and Abigail kissed him back without fear, without shame, without that voice in her head telling her she was being used. When they pulled apart, she was crying. Happy tears, he asked. Happy tears, she confirmed. They arrived home to find the ranch in crisis. Bill Henderson met them at the door, his face grim. Caleb, we've got a problem. The drought's gotten worse. Creek's almost dry. I've been hauling water from town, but it's not enough. You're going to lose cattle if we don't get rain soon." Caleb's face went hard. "How many head are we talking?" 20, maybe 30 if this keeps up another week." Abigail felt ice spread through her chest. This was it. This was the test. The moment when everything fell apart. And she had no idea if their love was strong enough to survive it. Caleb didn't waste time. He was out the door before Abigail could process what Bill had said, heading toward the barn. She followed Ruth, trailing behind her, looking lost. "What do we need?" Abigail called after him. "Every barrel we can find. Every bucket. We'll haul water from town until we can drill a new well." He was already hitching the wagon. "Bill, take me to the worst of it. I need to see how bad things are." "Caleb, wait." Abigail grabbed his arm. "Let me help. You just got off a train. You're exhausted. Go rest." "I'm not resting while you're fighting to save the ranch." Her voice came out sharper than she intended. "I'm your wife, your partner. Let me help." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, Ruth, you go inside. There's food in the kitchen. Make yourself at home." "I can help too," Ruth said quietly. "You've been living on the streets for 3 months. You need rest more than work." Caleb's voice was kind, but firm. "Please, let us handle this." Ruth looked like she wanted to argue but didn't. She went inside, shoulders hunched. The ride out to the north pasture was silent. When they arrived, Abigail's stomach dropped. Cattle stood listless in the heat, crowding around a creek bed that was barely a trickle. Some were already lying down, too weak to stand. "Jesus," Caleb breathed. "How did it get this bad in 10 days?" "It's been building for weeks," Bill said. "You know that. The trip to San Francisco just made it worse." Caleb's jaw tightened. Abigail could see him blaming himself. "We start hauling water now," she said. "How many trips to town?" "At least 6 a day," Bill calculated. "Maybe more. And that's just to keep them alive. Won't be enough for them to thrive. Then we make 6 trips." Abigail climbed onto the wagon seat. "Let's go." They worked until sunset, hauling barrels of water from town to the pasture. By the time they got back to the house, Abigail's arms were shaking and her back screamed with pain. But Caleb looked worse. His face was gray with exhaustion and worry. "We can't keep this up," he said, as they stumbled into the kitchen. "Not at this pace. We'll kill ourselves before we save the cattle." Ruth had made dinner. Simple stew and bread, but it smelled like heaven. She set plates in front of them without a word. "Thank you," Abigail said. "This is wonderful." "It's nothing." Ruth sat down with her own plate, still looking uncertain about her place at the table. "It's something to us." Caleb managed a tired smile. "We appreciate it." They ate in silence. Then Caleb pushed back from the table and pulled out the papers from the bank. "The inheritance money should arrive in Cheyenne in 3 days. I can use it to hire help, pay for more water hauling, maybe buy equipment to drill a well faster." He rubbed his face. "But 3 days might be too late. Then we work harder until the money comes." Abigail said it with more confidence than she felt. "You're already working yourself to death." His voice was rough. "I can't ask you to do more. You're not asking. I'm offering." She reached for his hand. "We're in this together, remember?" "Together." He squeezed her fingers. "Yeah." But as they lay in their separate beds that night, they still hadn't shared a room, still maintaining that careful distance. Abigail felt fear creeping back in. What if they lost the ranch? What if the drought broke them financially, despite the inheritance? What if Caleb blamed her for insisting they go to San Francisco? What if he realized she was more trouble than she was worth? The old fears were back louder than ever. The next morning she woke to find Caleb already gone. A note on the kitchen table said he'd taken the wagon to start the first water run. Ruth was making coffee. "He left 2 hours ago," Ruth said. "Didn't want to wake you." Abigail's chest tightened. "He should have woken me." "He said you needed rest." "I needed to help." She grabbed her coat. How long ago did he leave? Long enough that you won't catch him now? Ruth poured her a cup of coffee. Sit, drink this. Then we'll figure out what we can do here. I should be out there with him. And wear yourself out so you're useless tomorrow. That's not helping. That's pride. Ruth's voice was surprisingly firm. Trust me, I know the difference. Abigail sat hating that Ruth was right. How are you settling in? It's strange, being inside, having a bed. Ruth's hands wrapped around her own cup. I keep waiting for someone to tell me it's a mistake, that I have to leave. No one's going to tell you that. You don't know that. Ruth's eyes were haunted. People always leave, or they make you leave. Either way, you end up alone. Not here. Abigail reached across the table. We meant what we said. You're safe here, until I'm not. Ruth pulled her hand back. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be ungrateful. But I've learned not to trust good things. They never last. I understand that better than you think. Abigail's voice was soft. But what if we're both wrong? What if good things can last and we just haven't experienced them yet? Ruth didn't answer, just drank her coffee and stared out the window. Caleb came back at noon, the wagon empty, his shirt soaked with sweat. He drank a full pitcher of water without stopping. How many head did we lose? Abigail asked. 3. His voice was flat. Found them this morning, too weak to recover. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. But he wouldn't meet her eyes. That small detail, that averted gaze, sent panic through her system. Caleb, I need to get back out there. There's 2 more loads before dark. He was already moving toward the door. Wait. Talk to me. Nothing to talk about. Cattle are dying. I need to save the ones I can. He grabbed his hat. I'll be back late. He left before she could respond. Ruth looked at her with knowing eyes. He's pulling away. No, he's just stressed, worried about the ranch. Maybe. Or maybe he's realizing this is harder than he thought, that you're more work than you're worth. Ruth said it matter-of-factly, without cruelty. That's what my husband decided. Caleb's not like that. All men are like that when things get hard. Ruth stood, started clearing dishes. They promise you the world when it's easy, but when trouble comes, they remember they have options. And you're just another problem. Stop it! Abigail's voice shook. You don't know him. I know men. Ruth moved to the sink. And I know that look in your eyes. You're already preparing for him to leave, because deep down you know I'm right. Abigail wanted to argue, wanted to defend Caleb, but Ruth's words found every fear she'd been trying to suppress and dragged them into the light. She spent the afternoon working frantically, cleaning the house, doing laundry, preparing dinner, anything to keep her hands busy and her mind quiet. But when sunset came and Caleb still wasn't back, the panic got worse. What if something had happened to him? What if he'd been hurt? What if he'd decided to just keep driving and never come back? When she finally heard the wagon, she ran outside. Caleb was slumped on the seat, barely able to hold the reins. Caleb? She was at his side in seconds. What's wrong? Just tired. But when he tried to climb down, his legs buckled. She caught him, or tried to. They both went down in a heap. You're burning up. She pressed her hand to his forehead. You have a fever. It's fine. Just need to rest. He tried to stand and swayed dangerously. You're not fine. You're sick. She got her shoulder under his arm. Come on, inside. Now. Ruth helped her get him into the house and onto his bed. He was shivering despite the fever, his skin clammy. Heat exhaustion, Ruth said grimly. He pushed himself too hard in this weather. What do we do? Cool him down, get fluids in him, hope it doesn't get worse. Ruth was already moving, bringing cold water and rags. But we need to keep those cattle watered. If we don't, I know. Abigail's mind was racing. You and I will do it. You can't drive a wagon. Then you'll drive. I'll help you load and unload. Abigail looked at Caleb, unconscious and vulnerable. We don't have a choice." They worked through the night. Ruth drove while Abigail hauled buckets and barrels, her muscles screaming with every movement. By dawn, they'd made 3 trips. Not enough, but better than nothing. Abigail stumbled back into the house to check on Caleb. He was awake, trying to get out of bed. "What are you doing?" She pushed him back down. "You need to rest." "The cattle are being taken care of. Ruth and I handled it." She pressed a cup of water to his lips. "Drink." "You can't do that work. It's too hard." "I'm doing it anyway." Her voice was firm. "Now drink and rest. That's an order from your wife." "Abigail, I mean it, Caleb. You're no good to anyone dead. So you're going to lie here and recover while Ruth and I keep things going. Understand?" He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're incredible." "I'm terrified." The confession slipped out. "But I'm not running. Not this time." "Not ever," he said hoarsely. "Promise me. No matter how hard this gets, you won't run." "I promise." She kissed his forehead. "Now sleep." The next 2 days were hell. Caleb's fever broke, but he was still too weak to work. Ruth and Abigail made water runs from dawn to dusk, collapsing into bed each night, too exhausted to speak. On the 3rd day, Bill Henderson rode up with news. "Bank in Cheyenne wired. Your inheritance money is ready." He handed Caleb a telegram. "And there's something else. Old man Peterson has a drill rig. He'd be willing to sell it to you. Says with your money, you could have a well dug in 4 days." Caleb was on his feet despite Abigail's protests. "Tell him I'll take it, whatever he wants." "Caleb, you're still recovering?" "I'm fine." But he swayed as he said it. "You're not fine?" She put her hands on his chest. "But we can handle this. The money is here. We can hire help, hire drillers. You don't have to do everything yourself." "I have to do something. I can't just lie here while you and Ruth kill yourselves keeping my ranch alive." His voice cracked. "This is my responsibility." "No, it's our responsibility." She said it fiercely. "I'm not some fragile thing who needs protecting. I'm your wife, your partner. And I'm telling you that we can do this, together. But only if you stop trying to be a hero and let people help you." He stared at her, something shifting in his expression. "When did you get so strong?" "When I had to be." She managed a tired smile. "Now sit down before you fall down." The drill rig arrived the next day with a crew of 4 men. Caleb used the inheritance money to pay them double to work around the clock. Within 48 hours, they struck water. The relief was overwhelming. Cattle that had been dying started to recover. The grass began to green up. The ranch slowly started to heal. But something else had shifted too. Caleb watched Abigail work alongside the crew, organizing supplies, managing logistics, solving problems he hadn't even thought of yet. She was efficient, capable, strong in ways he'd never expected. "She's something else," Bill said one evening as they watched her direct the men. "When she got here, she looked like a strong wind would blow her over. Now look at her." "I know." Caleb's voice was filled with pride and something else. Something that felt like awe. That night, after the crew had left and Ruth had gone to bed, Caleb found Abigail sitting by the new well, her feet dangling over the edge. "Found you," he said. "I wanted to see it. Make sure it's real." She looked up at him. "We did it. We saved the ranch." "You did it." He sat beside her. "I was ready to give up. When I got sick, when I saw how bad things were, I thought we were finished. But you didn't. You kept fighting. I had to. I couldn't lose you." The words came out raw. "I couldn't lose this. Not when I'd just found it." "You're not going to lose me." He took her hand. "I know you're still scared. I know part of you is waiting for me to leave or change or turn into Marcus. But I need you to hear this. I'm not going anywhere. Not when things are hard. Not when they're easy. Not ever." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I know what it's like without you now. And I never want to go back to that." He cupped her face. You're not just my wife, Abigail. You're the person who makes me want to be better, stronger, braver. You saved this ranch, but more than that, you saved me. She was crying now, ugly, grateful sobs. I love you so much it scares me. I know, but we're going to be scared together. He kissed her softly. Come to bed with me tonight. Really with me. I'm not asking for anything except to hold you. To fall asleep, knowing you're there. Can we do that? Every instinct screamed at her to say no. To keep the walls up. To protect herself. But she was tired of being afraid. Tired of letting Marcus's ghost dictate her choices. Yes, she whispered. Yes, we can do that. That night, for the first time since their wedding, they shared a bed. Caleb held her close, his arms wrapped around her, and Abigail let herself relax into his embrace. Is this okay? He murmured. It's perfect. And she meant it. She woke in the morning to find him watching her, his expression soft. Good morning, Mrs. Walker. Good morning. She stretched, feeling surprisingly rested. How long have you been awake? A while. I didn't want to wake you. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Can I ask you something? Anything. What do you want from this marriage long term? Not what you think I want, or what you think you should want. What do you actually want? The question caught her off guard. No one had ever asked her that before. I want to feel safe, she said slowly. I want to wake up every morning and not be afraid that today's the day everything falls apart. I want to build something with you, something real and lasting. She paused. And I want to forgive myself for all the times I stayed when I should have left. All the times I believed lies instead of trusting my instincts. You're not responsible for what Marcus did to you. I know, but I'm responsible for healing from it. And I want to do that. With you. She met his eyes. I want to be the woman you think I am, strong and brave and capable. You already are that woman. His voice was firm. You just haven't seen it yet. But I have. Every day since you got here, I've seen it. Then help me see it too. She kissed him. Teach me to trust myself again. Deal. They spent the next week rebuilding. The well changed everything. Cattle recovered. Grass grew, the constant stress of water shortages disappeared. Ruth settled in, taking over the household tasks and proving herself invaluable. But one afternoon, as Abigail was hanging laundry, Ruth approached her with troubled eyes. I need to tell you something. What's wrong? My husband, James. Ruth's hands twisted together. He's here, in town, looking for me. Abigail's blood ran cold. How do you know? Bill Henderson told me. Said a man matching James's description was asking around about a woman from Boston. About me. Fear filled Ruth's voice. He's going to find me. He's going to make me go back. No one's making you do anything. Abigail grabbed her shoulders. You're safe here. We won't let him take you. You don't understand. He's not a good man. And he doesn't like losing things he considers his. Ruth's voice shook. When he finds out I'm here working for you, he's going to cause trouble. Let him try. Caleb's voice came from behind them. Neither had heard him approach. Anyone who wants to hurt you will have to go through me first. You don't know what he's like, Ruth whispered. Don't need to know. All I need to know is that you're under my protection now, and I don't let people hurt what's mine. He said it simply, like it was fact. Where is he? The saloon in town, last Bill heard. Then I'll go talk to him. Make it clear that you're not going anywhere. Caleb was already moving toward the barn. Caleb, wait. Abigail ran after him. You can't just confront him. What if he's dangerous? Then I'll be more dangerous. His voice was hard. No one threatens my family and gets away with it. Your family. Ruth's voice cracked. You really mean that? Of course I mean it. You live here. You work here. You're part of this ranch. That makes you family. He looked between them. Both of you are. And I protect what's mine. He rode to town before either of them could argue. Abigail and Ruth waited, tension building with every passing minute. When Caleb finally returned 3 hours later, his knuckles were bruised. "What happened?" Abigail demanded. "I explained the situation to James, very clearly." Caleb's voice was cold. "He won't be bothering Ruth anymore." "What did you do? What needed to be done?" He looked at Ruth. "He signed papers agreeing to an annulment. You're free, legally and completely." Ruth started crying. How did you make him agree?" "I told him I'd pay for the annulment and give him $500 to disappear. And I told him that if he ever came near you again, I'd make him regret it." Caleb's expression was grim. Money can solve a lot of problems, especially when dealing with men like him. "You spent $500 on me." Ruth's voice was shocked. "Spent it on family." He said it simply. "Now it's done. You never have to see him again." Ruth collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Abigail knelt beside her, holding her while she cried. Later, after Ruth had gone to bed, Abigail found Caleb in the barn. $500 is a lot of money," she said quietly. "It was worth it." "Was it?" She moved closer. "We barely know her. She could leave tomorrow. That money could be wasted." "It's not wasted if it gave her freedom." He turned to face her. "Abigail, I know what it's like to be trapped, to feel like you have no choices. If I can give someone that give them the ability to choose their own life, then it's worth any amount of money." "You're talking about me." "I'm talking about both of you." His voice was gentle. "You and Ruth aren't that different. Both hurt by men who should have protected you. Both convinced you're not worth saving. Both wrong." She threw her arms around him, holding tight. "I don't deserve you." "Yes, you do. And someday you'll believe that." He kissed the top of her head. "But until then, I'll believe it enough for both of us." That night, lying in bed beside him, Abigail felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, deep, bone-level peace. The ranch was saved. Ruth was free. And Caleb was hers, completely and truly hers. For the first time since Marcus had broken her, Abigail let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she was going to be all right. But peace, Abigail was learning, was not the same as permanence. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Ruth brought it in from town, her face pale. "This came for you, from Boston." Abigail's hands shook as she took the envelope. She recognized the handwriting immediately. "Marcus, what is it?" Caleb appeared in the doorway, saw her expression, saw the letter. "Who's it from?" "My former husband." The words tasted like poison. "I don't understand. How did he find me?" "Open it." His voice was steady. "Whatever it says, we'll handle it together." She broke the seal with trembling fingers and read aloud. "Dear Abigail, I hope this letter finds you well. I've recently learned of your marriage to Mr. Caleb Walker of Wyoming. I'm writing to inform you that our divorce was never finalized. The lawyer I hired took my money and disappeared without filing the proper papers, which means legally you are still my wife. Your marriage to Mr. Walker is invalid. I'll be arriving in Wyoming within the week to discuss our situation. Respectfully, Marcus Turner." The paper slipped from her fingers. "That's not possible," she whispered. "The divorce was final. I saw the papers." "Were they filed with the court?" Caleb's voice was carefully controlled. I don't know. Marcus handled everything. He said it was done. He said..." Her voice broke. "Oh God, what if he's telling the truth? What if we're not really married? Then we'll fix it." Caleb picked up the letter, read it himself. "This could be a lie. Marcus trying to manipulate you. We need to verify this before we panic." "And if it's true?" Fear flooded through her. "If I'm still legally his wife, then we'll get it sorted out properly this time." He pulled her close. "Either way, you're not going back to him. Ever. You understand me? He could force me. Legally, a wife has to." "No." Caleb's voice was hard as steel. I don't care what the law says. You're not his property. And if he tries to take you, he'll have to kill me first. Ruth was watching them with frightened eyes. This is my fault. I brought the letter. This isn't your fault. Abigail forced herself to speak calmly. Marcus did this. Whatever game he's playing, it's his doing, not yours. I'll ride to Cheyenne, Caleb said. Check the court records myself. Find out if this is real or just Marcus being vindictive. I'm coming with you. Abigail. I'm coming with you. She said it firmly. This affects both of us. I need to know the truth. They left within the hour, leaving Ruth to manage the ranch. The ride to Cheyenne took most of the day, and with every mile Abigail felt the old fears clawing their way back. What if Marcus was right? What if she was still his wife? What if everything she'd built with Caleb was built on a lie? The courthouse clerk confirmed their worst fears. There's no record of a divorce decree for Marcus and Abigail Turner. If one was filed, it's not here. Abigail felt the ground shift beneath her feet. So I'm still married to him. Legally, yes. The clerk's voice was sympathetic. Unless you can produce the original divorce papers. I don't have them. Marcus kept them. Her voice was hollow. He always said it was his responsibility to handle the paperwork. Caleb's jaw was tight. What do we need to do to fix this? File for divorce properly. But if Mr. Turner contests it, the process could take months, maybe longer. The clerk looked between them. I'm sorry. Outside, Abigail couldn't stop shaking. This can't be happening. We were so careful. We did everything right. We did everything we knew to do. Caleb took her hands. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? I should have checked, should have verified, should have... Marcus lied to you. Again. His voice was fierce. He's the one who did this, not you. But now what? I can't be married to both of you. And if Marcus contests the divorce... She broke off, horror flooding through her. What if he demands I come back to Boston? What if the law says I have to? Then we'll fight it. We'll hire the best lawyer money can buy. We'll... Caleb. She pulled her hands away. You can't spend your inheritance fighting my mistakes. They're not your mistakes. And it's our money now, remember? We're married. Or we would be if... He stopped, frustration clear on his face. This is exactly what Marcus wants. He wants us to turn on each other, to doubt what we have. How do you know? Because it's what men like him do. They can't stand seeing the people they hurt finding happiness, so they destroy it. He cupped her face. But I won't let him destroy us. Not without a fight. They stayed in a hotel that night in separate rooms again, the impropriety of their situation suddenly stark and real. Abigail lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling everything she'd built crumbling around her. She'd been a fool to think she could escape her past, a fool to think she deserved happiness, a fool to believe. A knock on her door interrupted her spiral. She opened it to find Caleb standing there in his shirt sleeves. Can't sleep either? He asked. No. Can I come in? She hesitated, then stepped aside. He entered, closed the door, and just looked at her. I've been thinking, he said finally, about what the clerk said, about how long this could take if Marcus fights it. So have I. Her voice was small. And I think maybe you should... If you're about to tell me to walk away, don't. He moved closer. I meant what I said. I'm not giving up on us. But if this takes months, then it takes months. We'll wait. He took her hands again. Abigail, I don't care if we're legally married or not. I know who you are to me. I know what we have. A piece of paper doesn't change that. The law says it does. Then the law is wrong. His voice was passionate now. You are my wife in every way that matters. In your heart, in mine, in the eyes of God, if you believe in that sort of thing. Marcus doesn't get to take that away just because he's a manipulative bastard who can't stand to see you happy. She was crying now. I'm so tired of fighting him. Even when he's not here, he's still controlling my life. Then stop fighting him. Caleb said it simply. Stop giving him that power. Stop letting him dictate how you feel or what you believe about yourself. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You've been doing it for weeks now. Every time you choose to trust me instead of your fear. Every time you let yourself be happy instead of waiting for disaster. Every time you stand up for yourself instead of shrinking back. He pulled her into his arms. You're already free of him, Abigail. You just don't know it yet. She buried her face in his chest and sobbed. For the girl she'd been when she married Marcus. For all the years she'd wasted believing his lies. For the fear that still gripped her even now. And Caleb held her through it all, steady and patient and strong. When the storm passed, she pulled back and looked at him. I want to be brave like you think I am. You already are. Then prove it to me. The words came out before she could stop them. Stay with me tonight. Really with me. Help me stop being afraid. His expression shifted, became serious. Abigail, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. She took his hand. I want to choose this. Choose you. Choose us. Not because I'm running from Marcus, but because I'm running toward something better. Are you sure? No. She laughed shakily. But I'm tired of waiting until I'm sure. I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions. She met his eyes. Make love to me, Caleb. Help me understand what it's supposed to feel like when someone actually cares about you. He kissed her, then soft and slow and careful. We go at your pace. The moment you want to stop, we stop. No questions, no guilt. Understand. I understand. What happened next was nothing like what Abigail had experienced with Marcus. Caleb touched her like she was precious, like she mattered, like her pleasure was just as important as his. When she froze up, overwhelmed by memory, he stopped immediately, held her, talked her through it, waited until she was ready to continue. When she cried from relief, from release from the sheer overwhelming feeling of being treated with tenderness, he wiped her tears and kissed her forehead and told her she was beautiful. And when it was over, when they lay tangled together in the hotel bed, Abigail felt something shift deep inside her. Something Marcus had broken, beginning to heal. Thank you, she whispered against Caleb's chest. For what? For being patient with me. For not making me feel broken. You're not broken. His arms tightened around her. You never were. You were just hurt. There's a difference. I love you. She said it with her whole heart. I love you so much. I love you too. He kissed the top of her head. And no matter what happens with Marcus, with the divorce, with any of it, we're going to be all right. I promise. She believed him. They returned to the ranch the next day to find Marcus waiting in the yard. Abigail's blood turned to ice. He looked exactly the same, handsome, well-dressed, charming smile in place. The sight of him made her want to run. But Caleb's hand was steady on her back. Mr. Walker, I presume. Marcus tipped his hat. And Abigail, you're looking well. What are you doing here? Her voice came out stronger than she felt. I came to discuss our situation, privately if possible. His eyes flicked to Caleb. This is a matter between husband and wife. She's my wife. Caleb's voice was cold. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of me. Legally, she's still mine. Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. The divorce was never finalized, as you know, which makes your little arrangement here quite awkward. What do you want, Marcus? Abigail forced herself to step forward away from Caleb's protective presence. Why are you really here? I want my wife back. He said it smoothly. I made mistakes, Abigail, I know that, but I've changed. I'm sober now, working, making something of myself. And I realized that losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. You didn't lose me. You threw me away. Her voice shook but didn't break. You told me I was worthless, that I was bad in bed, that no one would ever want me. Remember? I was drunk, angry. I didn't mean. You meant every word, and you know what, you were wrong. She stood taller. I'm not worthless. I'm not a burden. And someone does want me. Someone who treats me with respect and kindness and love. Something you never gave me. Marcus's expression hardened. That man is nothing, a dirt farmer who got lucky with an inheritance. I can give you a real-life Abigail, society, culture, everything Wyoming can't offer. I don't want that life. I want this one. She gestured to the ranch. I want the man who sees me as an equal, who doesn't try to control me or diminish me or make me feel small. I want Caleb. You don't have a choice. Marcus pulled papers from his coat. You're still legally my wife, and as your husband I have certain rights, including the right to demand you come home with me. She's not going anywhere with you. Caleb moved to stand beside Abigail. And if you try to force her, you'll regret it. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Marcus laughed. You think you can fight this? I have the law on my side. She's my wife, my property legally speaking. I'm not property. Abigail's voice rang out clear and strong. And I'm not afraid of you anymore, Marcus. You can wave your papers around all you want. You can threaten legal action. But you can't make me love you. You can't make me want you. And you sure as hell can't make me go back to being the broken woman you tried to turn me into. You think you're so strong now? Marcus's mask slipped, showing the ugliness beneath. You're still the same pathetic girl who couldn't survive without a man to take care of her. First me, now him. You'll never be anything on your own. You're wrong. Ruth's voice came from the porch. She stepped forward, fire in her eyes. She's already something on her own. She's brave and kind and strong. She saved me when no one else would. She fought to save this ranch when it was dying. She's more of a woman than you'll ever understand. And who the hell are you? Marcus sneered. I'm someone who knows exactly what kind of man you are. Ruth moved to stand with Abigail. Because I was married to someone just like you. Someone who thought hurting women made him powerful. But you know what? It just makes you pathetic. Marcus's face went red with rage. This is none of your business. You made it my business when you came here threatening my family. Ruth's voice was steel. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave, now, and you're not coming back. Or what? You'll have your pet cowboy shoot me. Marcus laughed. I'd like to see you try. I don't need to shoot you. Caleb's voice was calm. I just need to make you an offer. I'll give you $10,000 to sign the divorce papers properly and disappear from Abigail's life forever. That's more money than you'll make in 10 years. Take it and go. Or stay and fight this in court where every ugly thing you ever did to her will become public record. Your choice. Marcus's eyes widened. 10,000. Cash. Today. All you have to do is sign. Caleb pulled his own papers from his pocket. I had a lawyer draw these up. Real divorce papers that will actually get filed this time. Sign them, take the money, and never contact Abigail again. And if I don't, then I'll spend every penny of my inheritance destroying you in court. I'll hire investigators to dig up every shameful thing you've ever done. I'll make sure everyone in Boston knows exactly what kind of man you are. Caleb's voice was deadly serious. The choice is yours, but choose fast. This offer expires in 60 seconds. Abigail watched Marcus's face cycle through emotions, anger, greed, calculation. She knew the moment he decided. Money always mattered more to him than pride. Where do I sign? He asked finally. Caleb handed him the papers. Marcus signed them quickly, his hand shaking slightly with either rage or excitement. Abigail couldn't tell which. The money will be wired to the account you specify within the week, Caleb said. But you leave now. Today. And if you ever contact Abigail again, I get it. Marcus grabbed the papers, shoved them in his coat. He looked at Abigail one last time. You're making a mistake. He'll get tired of you eventually. They always do. Maybe. Abigail smiled. But that's my choice to make. Not yours. Not anymore. Marcus rode away without another word. The moment he was out of sight, Abigail's legs gave out. Caleb caught her, held her, while she shook with relief and shock and a wild, desperate joy. He's gone, she whispered. He's really gone. He's really gone. Caleb pulled back to look at her. And this time it's final. Legal. Permanent. You're free, Abigail. Completely free. We spent $10,000 on my freedom. Best money I ever spent." He kissed her forehead. "Though I have to say I'm impressed you stood up to him like that. The Abigail who arrived here 6 weeks ago wouldn't have done that. The Abigail who arrived here 6 weeks ago was a different person." She looked up at him. "You helped me find myself again. You and Ruth in this place. You gave me space to heal." "You did the healing yourself." Ruth joined them, her own eyes wet with tears. "We just gave you a safe place to do it." "Thank you." Abigail pulled Ruth into the embrace. "Both of you. For everything." They stood there together, three people who'd found family in the most unlikely of places. That night, after Ruth had gone to bed, Caleb led Abigail back to their room. Their room now not separate beds, not careful distance. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small box from his drawer. Inside was a ring. Simple, beautiful, perfect. "We never did this properly," he said. "No real proposal, no engagement, just desperation and fear and hoping for the best." He took her hand. "But we're past that now. So I'm asking you again properly this time. Abigail Walker, will you marry me, really marry me, now that you're free to choose?" "We're already married," she said, smiling through tears. "Legally married, yes. But I want you to choose it again. Knowing everything you know now. Having seen me at my worst. Having fought through the hard times." His eyes were intense. "Choose me again, Abigail. Not because you're running from Marcus, but because you actually want this life. Want me." "I choose you." She said it without hesitation. "I choose this life, this ranch, this future. I choose all of it, and I'll keep choosing it every single day for the rest of my life." He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. The next morning they rode to town and married again. Properly this time, with witnesses and a real ceremony and no shadows of the past hanging over them. Judge Morrison smiled when he pronounced them husband and wife. "Second time's the charm, eh?" "No," Caleb said, looking at Abigail with love written all over his face. "First time was the charm. This is just making it official." They returned to the ranch to find Ruth had prepared a celebration dinner. Nothing fancy, just good food and laughter and the feeling of family. "I have news too," Ruth said as they ate. "Bill Henderson asked if I'd consider courting. Said he's been sweet on me since I arrived, but didn't want to be disrespectful." "What did you tell him?" Abigail asked. "I told him I'd think about it." Ruth smiled shyly. "I'm not ready for anything serious, but maybe someday, if he's patient." "Patience is Bill's strong suit," Caleb said. "He waited 5 years for his first wife to agree to marry him. He'll wait for you too." "Good." Ruth raised her glass. "To patience, to healing, to second chances. To family," Abigail added. "To love," Caleb finished. They drank together, three souls who'd found each other in the wilderness and built something beautiful from broken pieces. Months passed. The ranch thrived. Ruth and Bill started courting officially, slow and careful, both of them healing from past wounds. Abigail threw herself into ranch life with a passion she'd never known she possessed. And every night she fell asleep in Caleb's arms, safe and loved and whole. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Caleb said, "I've been thinking about expanding the ranch, maybe buying the Henderson place when Bill and Ruth get married. Make it a proper operation." "That's a big step." "We can handle it. Together." He squeezed her hand. "What do you think?" "I think you should do whatever makes you happy." She leaned against him. "We'll figure it out. We always do." "We always do," he agreed. She thought about the woman who'd stepped off that stagecoach 6 months ago. Broken, terrified, convinced she'd never be whole again. That woman felt like a stranger now. "Caleb, yeah. Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I'd given up on myself, I saw something in you that first day. Something strong and brave buried under all that fear. I just had to wait for you to see it too." He kissed her temple. "And now look at you, running this ranch like you were born to it. standing up to Marcus, saving Ruth. You're incredible, Abigail Walker. I'm just me. Exactly. And that's more than enough. He pulled her closer. You know what I love most about you? What? That you never stopped fighting. Even when you were convinced you'd lost, even when you were terrified, you kept showing up, kept trying, kept choosing to heal instead of staying broken. His voice was thick with emotion. That's real courage. Not the absence of fear, but doing what needs to be done despite it. She turned to kiss him, pouring everything she felt into it. Love, gratitude, joy, hope. When they pulled apart, the sun had set completely, stars beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. Come to bed, Caleb murmured. It's been a long day. Best day, she corrected. Best life, he said. And as they walked inside together, Abigail knew with absolute certainty that she'd found what she'd been searching for all along. Not a perfect life, but a real one. Built on honesty and patience and love that didn't demand perfection, only presence. She was Abigail Walker, wife, rancher, survivor, fighter, and she was exactly where she was meant to be. The heartbroken mail-order bride had found more than healing in the cowboy's tender love. She'd found herself, her strength, and a future worth fighting for. And nothing and no one would ever take that away from her again.